Now, so we are going to say interceptor. Okay. First, let me show you API. Now, interceptor is a concept, okay, which just a minute. So interceptor is something which it's a topic in Angular, okay. But even though if you don't use it now, you can handle whatever interceptor can do without using interceptor also. Okay. Whatever interceptor can do without using interceptor also you can do it. But at multiple places you need to write the same code again and again. Okay. Means when we have to modify the header. Now, what do we mean by header first? Let me show you 4209. What was the login detail? Okay, from here we were using now. Username. Okay. If I go to vendor page, on the page load, I might have some API call. So whatever the API calls we have going on in our component, all those API call I can see in network tab, right? If I click over here, so here you can see we have a general tab. Inside that we have URL, method, status code, remote IP address, and policies, everything. Then after that we have response header and then request header. Response header and request header. This is additional kind of something where we can pass the data along with the API. Normally, what do? We can pass the data inside object, right? Over here, we get that payload. On click of save button, we can pass the object. But instead of that, or we can pass the data in URL also. Question mark ID is equal to something like that. Instead of that, we can pass some data into header also. It's like key value pair data. So request header means while making the API call, I'm passing some data along with my request. What's the use of header? When I'm making the API call, while making the API call, I'm passing some data along with my API call request. So that I can pass in my header. And the format will be key value pair data. Okay. Just like from Angular, we can pass the data to the API. Just like that, from API also, we can get some data. So that data, we will get it over here in response header. This is data we get from the API. Okay. And request means this is what data we are sending from our application to the API. Clear headers? ऐसा समझ के चलो कि जब भी आप एपीआई कॉल करते हो एपीआई कॉल के साथ बाय डिफॉल्ट कुछ ना कुछ डेटा जाता है। ये बाय डिफॉल्ट डेटा है, हमने ये सेंड नहीं किया, लेकिन इसके साथ हम कुछ और डेटा भी भेज सकते हैं। और डेटा भेजते समय की वैल्यू पेयर के फॉर्मेट में डेटा भेजना होता है। क्लियर?
पर वो बॉडी में भी तो भेज सकते हैं ना।
That's why I said na, body is also one thing, but apart from that body, you can send it over here also. Okay, you can send the data in body, you can send the data in URL also, question mark ID, right? Here also in the URL also you can send the data. Apart from that, you can send the data in header also. So there are three ways by which we can pass the data in API: body, URL, and the headers. Clear? Everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so from this, if we check, where is the user API? It will be at the bottom. Just scroll to the bottom, okay? I need to create one more subdomain. So many APIs are over here now. User. Okay, so user app. Just search by this. Control F and Control V. User app you will find. So we are going to use API from this. Login API also we are going to change, because now if you see this API get all user, this API is protected. Even though you run your project on 4209, you cannot access it because this API is protected. If you send the token along with your header, then only you will get the response. See, if I'm executing, I'm not getting response. What it is saying? Unauthorized. Even if I try it in the new tab also, still I won't be able to get the response. 401 means unauthorized. if you want the response from this API, you need to send some header along with it, token. And that token, you will get it from login API over here. Okay, so let's create a new user. We want to check it, right? So test44@gmail.com. Password admin11. Okay, and when you want to implement now, use the login, create the user from over here only, not other project. It won't work. Just create the user over here. Okay, so user got created successfully. Now I want to do the login. So this is my login. Let's try login is happening or not. Password was admin11. Execute. Fine. So login is working. Now, if you check the login API response, we got the user ID, email ID, and here we got one more thing, that is token. So this is the token what you get from your API. Means it will guaranteed, like after login, in the login response, you will get the token. That token, after login API, whatever the API call you are going to make, in every API call, you need to send this token in header. Okay. Now, whatever the login API we were using, we need to change it now. So this is the API we are going to use. Login component. Previously, we were using some another API. Now we have to change it. Okay, we had the service. Let's go to service. Instead of bank login, I'm now using this. And object will be changed. So in bank login, we were having something else, I think. Yeah, so username was there, but now in our API, what do we need to pass? Email ID and password. So let's change it. In HTML also, I need to change. Fine. Let's say try the same thing over here. If login is working. Log off. Password admin11. Login. Fine. So login is working. If you check the response in data, you are getting the token also. Okay. Now, so whenever we use interceptor, normally 70% time, what's the purpose of interceptor? Just to send the token. 70%. Obviously, there are more ways also, like what we can do with interceptor, but 70% or 60%, we mostly use interceptor just to send the token. Okay. Now, whatever the token we get from the login API, that first we need to store in our application. Means not in the code, on the browser level. So where we can store it?
Session storage.
Right? Session, local, cookies, or service variable. Anywhere you can store it. Okay. So let's store it. Store here local storage dot set item Z27 token res.data.token. What's the field name? Token only. Fine. So now once we do the login, and if we got the particular user and data and login is successful, in result.data.token field, we are going to get the token. That token I'm storing into the local storage. Fine. Now, after login, where we are navigating dashboard now. So for now, this API call, the get all user one, this API call I will try to integrate in my dashboard component. Dashboard component. HTTP inject HTTP client get users. We can make API call from component, right? Or do we need to create service only? Is it okay to make API call from component, or is it required that we have to create service and write function over there only?
In service, so we can use in all over the application.
Right? My question, listen the question. Is it required that I should create API call function into service only, or I can write the API call into component as well?
Component as well.
Component as well.
Right? Component as well, we can write the API call function. Fine. whatever the data we need. Let's say user list, any of array. Whatever the data we are supposed to get, that we will store it over here. Fine. And this function I need to trigger on the page load. So implement lifecycle event on init. Once we do, it will ask us to create our ng on init function. In ng on init, we will call this function. So this dot get user. Let's format it. Now in the dashboard component, you will have API call. But see, it is saying 401. Let me refresh again. So on the page load, we are getting the API call, but it is saying 401, means unauthorized. Okay, API call, we are not able to get the response from this API because this API is protected. If we want to get the response from this API, whatever the token we get from this login API, that we need to send in its request header. Understood? So for this,
Yes.
if I don't want to create the interceptor, now then how I can do that? How I can send the token? So if I hover on this get, you can see how many parameters we have in the get function.
String, then options, and under option
URL, first option. Then second option, you can see option. Okay, so we just have two parameters in the get. First is the URL and second is the option. And in option, it's an object. Over here, you can see header. Right? Here also you can send the header. So let's try it. Comma. How do we send it first? Option. Anyone know how do we write that?
And where does the body go then?
No. Body is, this is a get API, na? Get API doesn't have a body, na? Can we send object in the get API?
No.
Right? So get in post API, we will have three parameters: URL, body, and then object. This. What I mean, I need to create a header. Let me find how do we create a header. Something like this we create a new HTTP header. Fine. So I will write this. Okay. Now I have created an object of header. Okay. Then inside that header, I need to add key value pair data. So my key will be, what do we need to send? Authorization. Authorization. Then over here, bearer, then space. After that, we need the token. So now after login, we are storing the token into the local storage. So that we need to read that token. Constant token is equal to local storage instead of set item. Now I need to read the token. So get item, and this is the key. Okay. So whatever the token we get, that we need to send it over here after bearer, like this. Okay. So what it will does, we are creating a new header. Our header key name is authorization, and the value will be bearer space whatever the token we got from the login API. And this header we need to pass over here as the second object. Right, saying error.
We have to type in options or not something.
Object. Okay. Inside object we need to pass. Fine. Let's try this now. If we are getting the response from this API. And it might be expired or something. Let me save it again. Not doing that.
Are we using the right variable?
Yeah, this header we created. Yeah, header object we created. In that, inside that header we set the token. In that header we are
But
passing it over here.
27 token is the same variable, the one which we use to set the item.
Anyways, but here at least property should come, na? Authorization, but that property is also not coming. Let's debug.
Oh,
Dashboard. Keyboard. Token is null. How come? We stored the token, na? Let's log in again. I think we log in first. After that, we didn't again log in. That's why token is not there. Login. Now in the application. Okay, local storage we stored now 27 token. See over here we have it. Local storage and local storage. Same name we are using now. How come we are not able to get the token? Let's reload. We got the token. We created header. Continue. Still it is saying 401, but why token is not visible over here? We are doing something wrong then. Okay, like this we need to pass. Let's try. API call is not getting success. Authorization is also not visible over here. Why? How else do we write it? Header dot set. What we have reused. Same thing. No? Let's try copy pasting this. This is not what we do, but I wanted you to understand like how, if we are not using token, what are the other ways? Authorization. Header and key value. This header object we are passing over here. Headers only. Let's try one more time. Now it is success. So you can see now it is success. And if you see the request header here, you can see authorization, bearer, and whatever the token we have stored in our local storage. Okay. If we are passing the token, now if I remove this token, let's say I remove it. Okay. And if I refresh, again my API will break. See, because my token is not going. Understood? So if while making this API call, if you are passing the token in your header in authorization property, then only you will get the response. If you are not passing the token, you won't get the API response. Okay.
so why it was not going before? Like why there was error?
I don't know. We just copy pasted. Almost same thing it was there. Something might be different. Okay. So whenever we are making the API call, we can pass the token like this also. We can create headers over here and we can pass it in an object over here. But let's say after login, your all APIs are authenticated. So it's not a good thing. Na? Everywhere you are making the API call, before that you are creating header and you are passing it over here. It's a repeated code, correct?
Yes.
So instead of doing this, either you make this in the component or in the service also. Everywhere, wherever you are making API call, you will be creating a constant and putting over there. It is repeated thing, right? So instead of doing this in a repeated place, you can make use of the interceptor. Okay. So now let's create the interceptor. So in service, I will be creating it. Let's open a new
So
tab.
basically हम कौन सा कोड इंटरसेप्टर में रखते हैं, इसकी डेफिनेशन क्या होगी?
Interceptor sits between your application and API application. Okay, it's sitting in middle of your Angular application and API application. Whenever you are communicating from your application to API application, all the communication will happen through the interceptor. Means whatever the API going from your application, it will go through the interceptor towards the API. And from API, if you get the response, that will also come from interceptor, then your respective component or your service. Okay. All the API call will go through the interceptor. If you implement it, if you are not implemented it, from here only API call will trigger. This is the last place from your API call will trigger. If it is service, this is the last place from API call will trigger. But if you have implemented interceptor, from here, your execution will go to interceptor, and from there actually API call will trigger. Okay. So interceptor sits between your application and the API. Okay.
Okay.
Now ng generate interceptor complete thing we need to write, because I will create, if we use shortcut, we can use for interface also and interceptor also. So that's why we have to write full interceptor. Let's say token. Okay. We can create multiple interceptor also. I will explain that also. So for now we have created token interceptor. So once you create it, what you got? What is this? What is this? What is
Class, interceptor class.
What is this?
Function. Sorry, function. This is the function.
This is an arrow function. So from Angular 16, we got guard as arrow function and interceptor as arrow function. Previously, it was class, normal service. Clear? Okay. Now, let me just add a debugger over here and you see. I'm just doing the log off. Okay. Debugger on. Login. See where I am in my login component. From login component, I'm calling this function. We'll go to this function, user select. Okay. Continue. See, now I got the debugger in my service. From here, HTTP post is there. But see, no, one more thing. Let's continue. Now my interceptor won't execute. See, my interceptor didn't execute it. Why? Because we just created the interceptor. Okay. But to enable this interceptor in my application, I need to add it to my app config. In app config, guys, please be on mute if you're not talking. Gaurav, Yashashri, please be on mute. Okay. So here we add provide HTTP client, right? So now inside this, we need to write with HTTP. With interceptor is there. With interceptor. With interceptor, and here, what type of data it needs? This function, what type of data it needs? what type of data we can pass to this with interceptor function. See over here now, what type of data we can pass? Guys, what is this? Array, right? See the symbol. What we can pass? Array. So as I said, how many interceptor we can create in an application? Multiple. So we can provide multiple interceptor over here. That's why it is array over here. Okay. So now we have created token interceptor. So this is our function name. So this function name we have to provide over here as the first element. You need the import. Okay. So this is an intro question. They will ask you like how many interceptor we can create. We can create multiple interceptor. Then next question will be like, if we can create multiple interceptor, how multiple interceptor can execute? What's the idea behind interceptor? Interceptor is the thing which sits between your application and an API application. All the communication will go through interceptor. So if there are multiple interceptor, how it is going to execute, right? So if we have multiple interceptor, now all will execute. Again, next question will come. Which interceptor will execute first? Here, whatever the first interceptor you add it over here, that will execute. After that, if you add one more, that will execute. Clear? Okay, let me complete. Then again, we will see whatever I have explained right now, we will see it in the practical. Okay. So once you create the interceptor, next thing in your app config, you need to add it. Okay. With the older structure, we used to add this in the app module in the provider section only. But it was something different. But again, in the provider only, we used to add it. Okay. Now, if I save.
यहाँ पे मुझे क्वेश्चन है.
हाँ.
पहले हमने जो प्रोवाइड HTTP क्लाइंट करके हम मतलब अदर जो API थे मतलब उसको जो टोकन रिक्वायर्ड नहीं था वो वर्क करते थे. यहाँ पे अभी हमने टोकन इंटरसेप्टर ऐड किया तो जहाँ पे वो टोकन की जरूरत नहीं होती है
वहां पे भी जाएगा.
इफेक्ट करता है क्या? नहीं करता.
वहां पे भी जाएगा.
टोकन वहां पे भी जाएगा.
हाँ. बट API को उसकी गरज होगी तो वो लेगा, नहीं तो लेगा. हम वो भी कोड लगा सकते हैं यहाँ पे. URL आती है ना यहाँ पे, रिक्वेस्ट में पूरी URL आती है, राइट? बेस्ड ऑन दैट वी फिल्टर इट ऑल्सो कि in which URL I need to send the token. So I will add if else condition over here. Okay. Now, since we created interceptor and we enable that interceptor in our app config. Now, let's log in again. Let me remove all the debugger. Everywhere debugger is getting executed. Let's log off. Token interceptor. I will just add a debugger over here at line number 5. Okay. So now whatever the API call you make, see how it works. Once I click on login, it is going to my particular component. After component, I'm calling service. So it will go to the service. Okay. Here it comes the execution. After that, we are writing HTTP post. If your interceptor was not there, from here only API call would have triggered. But now, since you have the interceptor enabled, now it will from here, it will go to your interceptor. See, from here actually API call will trigger now. See in the request what you get, body, header, URL, everything means complete URL, whatever the API we are making, it has some data, right? So everything you get it over here. You get the URL. So if you want to bypass some URL, you don't want to send some token to a particular URL, so you can add a if check over there. Okay. Login. So let's say after login, I visit vendor page. Again, you can see interceptor got executed. If I go to enrollment, again, interceptor got executed. So whenever you are making the API call, all the time, after your wherever API call code, either you have written in component, then from component, it will go to interceptor directly. If you have written the API call into service, From component, it will go to service. From service, it will go to interceptor. But finally, your API call will trigger from interceptor only. Cleared? इंटरसेप्टर, अगर आपने इंटरसेप्टर इंप्लीमेंट किया है, अगर आपने एपीआई कॉल कहाँ पे लिखा है, कंपोनेंट में, तो कंपोनेंट से एपीआई कॉल ट्रिगर होने के बाद वो कहाँ पे जाएगा, इंटरसेप्टर में. फाइनली वहां से आपका एपीआई कॉल ट्रिगर होगा. ओके. सेकंड, अगर आपने एपीआई कॉल कहाँ पे लिखा है, सर्विस में, सो कंपोनेंट, कंपोनेंट से सर्विस, सर्विस के बाद इंटरसेप्टर. अंडरस्टूड?
We have to move with this all token logic to the interceptor.
हाँ. सो जैसे मैंने बोला, व्हाट आई सेड कि all the API call will finally go from your interceptor. So instead of writing this token, where is the dashboard? Instead of writing this code everywhere, wherever you are making the API call, instead of modifying this header, you can do this in a single place, that is in an interceptor. Okay. Understood? So now here what we do. So in request, you get the actual API call data, whatever the URL, body, header, whatever you have it, everything you will get it over here in the request. So now whatever the request you got, we need to clone it. Means you have to copy. You are cloning. You are copying the data, whatever you get in the request, you are creating one new object. Okay. So here we will create, let's say, const. Why we are creating const? Because we are inside a function, right? Const request is equal to request dot clone, round bracket, curly bracket. Now inside that we need to, what we need to do? We need to add a header. So over here you can see all things are coming. So here we have to use set headers method. Then inside that, what do we need to pass? Sorry, set header colon object. Again, whatever we did in the dashboard component, like this same thing, we can put it over here. But we need to read the token, right? And over here, colon. Token reading knowledge, this token, we have to read it again over here also.
Sir, clone और equal to में क्या फर्क होता है?
Clone और equal to में?
जैसे आपने new request dot clone. हम
See, in this variable, what we are going to store, not a normal value, right? It's not a normal value. Everything about the API call, we are going to store it over here, right? Yeah, we are using equal to means after that, whatever the data we have it over here, we can store it over here. But while storing, we are modifying also something. See,
okay,
right? We are not directly storing. Now, while storing, we are modifying whatever we have it over here. Then a new copy of request I'm storing over here. That's why clone.
Then we use clone.
Okay. So see, in our interceptor, what's the logic we have written? We have read the local, we have read the token we have stored in the local storage. Then whatever the request, incoming request we have got, we are modifying that with adding the header. Okay, authorization, bear, and whatever the token we got. And this new request which we have created, that we need to pass it over here. So whatever the old request we got, we have, by using that, we have created a new request, and this new request we are passing it over here. Okay. Now I can remove this piece of code from over here. Let's save it. See, we got it over here. Let's show the network tab. If I go to, where is the dashboard? Dashboard. Something here will go change. Logo. Login. In get all user, we are able to see the token. So this token we got it from our interceptor. So from our component, we removed that code. So here we have that code where whatever the request we are going to get. See, if I navigate to vendor, In vendor also, you will be able to see the authorization, right? Whatever the API call you are going to do, right? In every API call, you will have this. So in a single place, you have written the code to modify your header. Understood?
Yes. Other than token, what example we can use over here?
See, other than token, let's say you want to calculate the time, like how much time API is taking, right? Or how much from your component, then going to service, then your interceptor, and once you get the response, you need to track everything. So there we can just create some time by using new date, and we minus that time and we get the time, like how much time our API is taking to get the response. Understood? Again, mocking also is there. So mocking as in your asset folder or in what do we have public folder, you will create JSON file. So instead of making the API call, here you will return the data from your JSON file. Not you won't actually trigger the API call. Here only you will read the data from JSON file and you will send it back. Okay. So here you will see like you are making the API call. But over here, what you will be doing, you will be reading the data from your JSON file and sending it back. You won't make the API call. Directly you will send the response from the JSON.
Okay.
So mocking is also that thing.
सर यहाँ पे जो क्लोन मेथड यूज किया है मतलब बेसिकली वो जेएस में भी कहीं पे यूज होता है क्या
ये
मतलब
जेएस का कंसेप्ट है। सी एंगुलर का कुछ कोडिंग है क्या खुद का?
नहीं है
No.
Right? Angular is a framework. What's the language we are using to code?
TypeScript.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the base of TypeScript?
JavaScript.
So this clone is from JavaScript only. Okay, whatever we are able to write in TypeScript, almost everything is coming from JavaScript only. Okay, yeah, some things are there which are not in JavaScript, but they are in TypeScript. Okay, why TypeScript was created? What's the main agenda behind TypeScript?
So only typed.
What's the main purpose of TypeScript?
The superset of JavaScript.
Type
Definition.
safety.
No.
Type safety.
No. TypeScript supports some of the OOPS feature. Is JavaScript OOPS language?
Not, it's partial.
Right? Not partial also. There are ways how we can manage that whatever class and object and those things. We can manage that by something created by JavaScript. But JavaScript is not a OOPS oriented language. But TypeScript is. Again, not fully. Some of the concept only it supports. Okay. Yeah, when someone asks you like what is TypeScript, obviously TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. That's not the answer you should limit. TypeScript supports some of the OOPS feature. That's your whole answer. Okay. सिर्फ TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript बोल के नहीं होता. That is just for answer for fresher. अगर आप एक्सपीरियंस हो तो आपको आगे बताना है कि TypeScript OOPS के कुछ कंसेप्ट सपोर्ट करता है.
सर एक छोटी सी क्लास लगा सकते हो कैसे TypeScript यूज करता है उसका सेशन?
हाँ, याद दिलाना मैं मुझे भी प्रिपेयर करना पड़ेगा लेकिन थोड़ा सा. ठीक है, एक्चुअल TypeScript में क्या क्या अपन कर सकते हैं एक्स्ट्रा. इनहेरिटेंस, right? Can we do inheritance in JavaScript?
No, sir.
No.
But here we do. Here we can do it. Okay. Interface. JavaScript में interface नहीं है. क्लास अभी आया है. Right? पहले क्लास भी नहीं था JavaScript के पास. हम वो फंक्शन बनाते थे, फंक्शन में पैरामीटर और उसको फंक्शन को एज ए न्यू ऑपरेटर क्रिएट करके क्लास बनाते थे. Okay. Now, this is what we have created, token interceptor. As I said, we can create multiple interceptor. What's the idea of interceptor? Interceptor monitor all the incoming requests. Sorry, first, all the outgoing requests means when we are making the API call, that is outgoing request. From our application, request is going outside. So that is outgoing request. Then in incoming request. What's the incoming request?
The response.
Response.
Of
So
the
when we
API.
get the data from the API, When we are making the API call, that is outgoing request. And when we get the response, that is incoming request. Okay. So this interceptor which we have created, this is outgoing or incoming?
The outgoing.
Outgoing. No, we are
Outgoing.
making the API call from over here, and while making, we are modifying the header. Now I need to handle the API error. What type of error we can get in, what type of different error we get from API?
404,
404,
401.
401.
401, right? So I need to handle those API call error in a one place. Otherwise, how do we handle it? Over here, we write it, right? Like this. Correct? In every function, we normally write like this, and here we add that if error dot status code or something is there, na? Is equal
Yes,
to 400. This if statement, then again else if 500 is there, what we need to do? Like that, in every function we have to do it. But instead of doing this over here, we can do that in a interceptor. So we can do that everything in a single interceptor also. But we create for outgoing request, we create one interceptor. To handle the incoming request, we create another interceptor. Okay. Let's create another interceptor.
Sir, ये जो 9 number line में लिखा return next new request, that's the response of the API?
No, we are triggering next. From where we get the next? ये next क्या है? What is this next?
The promise का next.
Operator है RxJS का next to trigger something, right? We haven't seen the subject. Once we see the subject, then you will understand this next. So next operator is from the RxJS. It will trigger, okay, emit something. Fine. Now let's create another interceptor ng generate. Error
observer trigger करता है ना next.
हाँ. Okay, so वही है. यहाँ से अपना जो भी API कॉल है, ये actually यहाँ से trigger कर रहा है. Okay. Now, so we have created one more interceptor. Our name is error interceptor. Once we create the interceptor, again, we need to add this in our app config, right? Over here, comma, error interceptor. Okay. Understood? Now, in an error interceptor, where is the error interceptor? Let's add a debugger. Here also we have the debugger. And here token interceptor also we will add a debugger. Let's check that. Save. Component. Let's remove. See, first interceptor which got executed is token interceptor. Once I continue from over here, then my error interceptor got executed. So you saw the practical implementation. We can add multiple interceptor. Order of execution will be whatever you add it in the first, because it's an array. Understood? And whatever the number of interceptor you have implemented, all will execute one by one. Understood?
Yes.
Yes.
See, this is very famous interview question and a tricky one too. First, get it clear what is interceptor, and then this question. If you answer interceptor question clearly, then he will jump to this question. How many interceptor we can have, and then how it will execute. Then why do we need multiple interceptor, even if we can handle everything in a one interceptor? So just to separate our logic, we create multiple interceptor. For the outgoing request, we create our token interceptor, and to handle the incoming request, means once we get the response, we create our error interceptor or modify interceptor or something. Okay, so just to separate our logic. Now, so error interceptor. Here in this interceptor, we are going to perform or modify or something, write some code once we get the response from the API. So this is the place from where API call will trigger. After that, we need to write pipe operator. So once we get the response, then our pipe will execute. Inside that, we need to use catch error or something, catch error only.
Before subscribing, we use pipe.
No, pipe is a operator to group multiple operator. Then here, error, data type. What's the data type in that? Let's add it in round bracket error, colon, error, response, HTTP response. Okay. So this is that 400, 500. What are the possible? This is an class. Let's go to this definition. Where did we have that? Okay. So see, these are the various possible errors we can have. So many are there. Okay. These are the all possible errors what you can get from the API. Okay. Out of this, we normally get 500. Where is that 401? 401 authorized, 400 for bad request. Let's say your API needs something. Your post API is there. Post API need five field, and you just passed up 4 field. So you will get 400. Okay. What else we get? That's it, na? 500.
Bad
401.
gateway 54542.
Sometimes we get 201. We get 200. We get. Okay. So what are the possible status code we have? It's the class of that. So that's why we have to provide a data type over here. That is HTTP error response. Okay.
Mhm.
Then curly bracket. Now, if error dot status is equal to 500. So if it is 500, what do we need to do? Normally we will show alert API error. Okay. 500 is means normally API error. Okay. Then else if error dot status is equal to, let's say, 400. We will say invalid body. Check your payload. Right? Why do we need to handle like this? Because if whatever the error message we get, if we just say 500, 400, guys, please, Karan, please be on mute. Usha, be on mute, na? Okay. See, here we get the error, like what is the status? If we directly show the status, it won't be very, what do we say, meaningful. So for that, we have to handle your error properly. 400 we got. So we can say invalid body, check your payload, right? Again, else if then error dot status code is equal to 401, right? So we can say unauthorized.
स्टॅटिक झालं ना, पण आपण डायनॅमिकली घेऊ शकतो का? म्हणजे कुठला एरर आला आहे तो कळतं आपल्याला.
Again, you can create array of status error and you can loop over there. But normally, as I said, now 500, 401, 400, 3, 4 error only we get. Okay. Login. Okay. Yeah. Response.
म्हणजे आपण .NET
See.
मध्ये कसं एक्सेप्शन
हा.
क्लास वापरल्यावर डायरेक्ट
Same
तो
thing,
कुठला
same thing we can do it over here. Instead of writing this static, we can create a different function, and there we can create like what are the possible errors we have in, we can keep it in an array, and that instead of writing this multiple if else, we can use the for loop. Correct?
Yes.
Logic is either you can write multiple if statement or you can move this code into your for loop. Okay. After that, you need to do return. See, it's still giving error. What's the error? Type void is not assignable to type into observable into. Means whatever you are writing it over here, catch error. What's the return type? It needs some return type proper. That's why it is giving some errors. So here we need to write return. So what's that? So error what do we need it over here? Arrow function, curly bracket, and here we can say we need to pass empty object or something. New error, and whatever the actual error we got. So in error dot message we can send. Okay. Now let's add a debugger over here. Sorry, inside catch error. Let's save and check.
So this throw error will be in network tools or somewhere in UI?
No. See, catch error means obviously we know that this is a catch. It means if whatever the API call we are making, we have some error in the API. That's only this catch error will execute. If the API call is success, this won't execute. Okay, this will execute if your API is breaking. If it is a success 200 to not 1, this block won't execute. Okay.
I know, but you over here alert will be a Windows alert, right?
Right.
And what about number 16 line that will also execute at
No.
the
So
end?
this obviously na see you are making from your component or from your service you are going to make the API call, right? So if it's a success, interceptor will send the response back. But even if it's an error, you need to send something, na?
Okay.
Otherwise, it will
In
be
order
waiting
to
only.
in a subscribe, like what we
Right.
are getting.
Otherwise, how your subscriber error, it won't execute, na? Because you are not sending something. That's why it is mandatory to return through error from over here. If we are not
So in the
returning, it will throw
subscribe
error.
block, we can listen something.
Right. Okay.
Got it.
Now, let's try it. Okay, those who are new and seeing this code for the first time now, even if you are not understanding this error interceptor, now let it be. Main is this. Okay, those who are already working and those having experience, they might understood this. They might not have any question, but for now, wait for some days. Once our project gets started, and again this thing will repeat. So then at least you will understand it. But for now, this you should understand what we did in the token interceptor. Okay, let's debug it now. Let's log out. Login. So from our component service, then we are in the token interceptor. Continue. Then our error interceptor, we have a debugger over here. Okay, continue. After that, one more API call was there for get all user. Since in get all user, we have the token and API call was success. So that's why our error interceptor catch block didn't execute it. Now I'm modifying the token, whatever the token we got now, I'm just adding some extra character over here. Now my token is invalid. Now if I refresh, my API should break. See, now I got the catch. And in error, you can see status is 401. So my if else will block will execute. Unauthorized. Please log in to get the API response. Understood? So in a single place, you are handling all the API error you are going to get. Instead of writing this in every subscribe call, wherever you write it, right? Either in your component or in your service, instead of writing in every subscribe, you are doing it in a one place, handling API error. Understood?
Yes.
Here also you can have, see after this, catch error, where is the catch? Bracket. You can use a tap operator. Whatever the data you get, see, when this block is going to execute, if any error is there. But if API call is success, then your tap or subscribe or map operator, what are the operators you can use that you can write it over here. Okay, I'm not going into deep, but in a single place also you can modify the response also. Before sending it back to your component or your service, you can modify the response. Whatever the response you got, you can modify that and again you send it back. Okay. So understood interceptor?
सर वन क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे हमने दो इंटरसेप्टर यूज किए वन फॉर एरर एंड वन फॉर
टोकन
रिस्पॉन्स या तो बट ऐसा कौन सा सिचुएशन आता है कि जहाँ पे मल्टीपल इंटरसेप्टर यूज करना पड़ता है?
यही है. See, as I said, whatever we have done it over here, this same thing we could have written it over here also. Okay, same thing we could have written here over here also. Then what's the use of creating another thing, na? Just to separate our logic. Understood?
Yes, yes.
Right? See, when you work on a bigger project, na, there are so many things happening when a request is going from your system. This is what
Yes,
we are
sir.
doing. We are just passing a single token. But in actual project, you are doing so many header things. So many headers you will be passing. So obviously, so many of lines of code will be over here. And again, you are handling the error over here only. So it gets little bit difficult, na? Right? So that's why just to separate our code, we have two interceptor, token interceptor and error interceptor. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's say in this interceptor, you are sending just the header, just the token. Let's say you are in your application, you are handling so many API file upload and everything. To do the file upload, again, you need to do some another things, right? So for that, you will again create one more interceptor, and in that you will just modify the another header for file upload, right? That's file type and everything. So many things we have to send. For that, you will create one more interceptor. Just to separate our logic, we create multiple interceptor. Clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, this token is a JWT token, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Which we use implemented.
From .NET side, I have used JWT, but for Angular person, you don't have to worry about, right? API team will tell you like how you have to send it. If it's a .NET API, normally we send it like this: authorization bearer. If it's a Java, we don't have to pass the bearer. If it's a PHP, we don't have to pass the bearer. Right?
Okay.
API team will tell you like what in header, what's the key and how token you need to send it. Like that you need to send it.
Okay. But in Angular also JWT token concept is there, so right?
Yeah, we can create JWT token in Angular also.
Okay. This
Let's
concept
say-
is different and we use this regular token.
This token we are getting from the API. Same token we can generate on
Yeah.
the UI side also.
Okay.
Okay.
And sir,
Right.
please make one session on that. When we doing this here API call, right? We receive data from API call, but we can store that data in a local file and we can call this.
Sorry. Repeat once again.
See, हमने अभी क्या किया है, API कॉल करके वो डेटा रिसीव किया रिस्पॉन्स में. तो जैसे हम एक लोकल फाइल बनाते हैं कई कंपोनेंट में, तो वहां पे हम वो डेटा सेव करके उसको कॉल करना और UI के थ्रू.
मतलब फिर से API कॉल ना करते हुए कहीं पे स्टोर
डायरेक्टली
करके
कॉन्स्टेंटली हम डेटा. यस.
हाँ.
ऐसा एक सेशन में बताना.
उसी के लिए स्टेट मैनेजमेंट है ना.
ओके.
राइट. उसी के लिए तो हम स्टेट मैनेजमेंट यूज करते हैं कि प्रॉपर वे में करना है तो स्टेट मैनेजमेंट में कर सकते हैं.
ओके.
सर
सर एक
कौन
लास्ट
सा
क्वेश्चन.
कंसेप्ट है? सॉरी, गो अहेड.
That cross one issue concept is in Angular. It's the
No.
same with like token.
CORS is not related to Angular. It's related to .NET. Whenever we create the API, we restrict particular port number. Okay. Let's say with my API, I have restricted only 4209. So if you hit my API from 4209, then only you will get the response. Otherwise, you will get CORS issue. That is one case. Again, let's say your API is GET, but you are calling is at the post. You will get CORS error. Okay.
बट सर समटाइम कैसे होता है ना, वो अगर सेम फ्रंट एंड पे हमें कोर्स इशू आता है बट बैक एंड पे वो सेम एपीआई कॉल करके वो डेटा उनको रिस्पांस मिलता
so
है, बट फ्रंट एंड पे
sometimes we have to create a proxy server for that. Proxy server we have to create.
और वी नीड टू क्रिएट सम सेटिंग इन एप्लीकेशन.
No, normally see, most of the 90% time we don't have to do it. It's their issue only. They might not have enabled it properly. In their system, obviously it will work. Okay, because you are in the same system, na?
Yes.
There is no cross domain. In their system, it will work. But when we are hitting it from our application, it's a different system, cross origin, right? So they have to
cross
do it.
origin.
But some applications are there where we need to create some proxy on our end also, and they will also tell. So two layer of security will be there. So there only we need to create the process. Only 5%
पर
application
देयर
will
इज
be there.
नो, यस यस,
Nothing we
बस
need
हमें
to
कुछ
do.
सेटिंग यहाँ पे चेंज
नहीं,
करना पड़, जरूरत
no,
नहीं है।
no.
ओके, बट बैकएंड पे वो लोग मीन्स मानते नहीं है सर, एक्चुअली
हाँ, तो वो हर
लास्ट मेरा
प्रोजेक्ट में
एक
वही
टिकट
होता
था।
है, मानते ही नहीं है वो लोग। वो बोलते कि नहीं मेरे इस पे काम कर रहे हैं, बट वी हैव टू गूगल इट
हम्म,
एंड वी हैव टू शोकेस देम कि सी ये हमारे साइड से नहीं है। और ये इनिशियल
चलो वो
टाइम
मैंने
पे
हैंडल
रहता है।
किया, तो 15 दिन हैंडल किया वो सेम इशू।
नहीं, चैट जीपीटी करके
यस,
दिखाने
ओके,
का या फिर डीपसीक दिखाने का, देखो मैं
किया बट
बोल रहा हूँ।
फ्रंट एंड पे इशू नहीं था, एक्चुअल बैकएंड पे ही था कुछ रिस्ट्रिक्शन का।
राइट,
यस,
ठीक।
ओके,
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि
हाँ,
जैसे कि हमारा ग्रिड है ना,
हम्म,
जिसमें मल्टीपल रैकेट्स दिखा रहे हैं,
हम्म,
और यूजर ने कोई पैरामीटर्स लगाए हैं, लेट्स से ही वांट्स टू सर्च राइट
हाँ,
नाउ बेस्ड ऑन फर्स्ट नेम
हाँ,
एंड कोई सर्च पैरामीटर फिल्टर कर रहा है ग्रिड
हाँ,
में,
हाँ।
कि इंस्टेंटली उसने पेज रिफ्रेश कर दिया। उस स्टेट मैनेजमेंट को कैसे हम सेव करते हैं, एपीआई में कि रिडक्स के थ्रू?
नहीं, हमारे साइड में ना एपीआई को कैसे पता चलेगा तुमने रिफ्रेश किया है ना क्या किया है, राइट? उसके लिए तो हर एक आने वाली रिक्वेस्ट डिफरेंट डिफरेंट है ना,
कि
राइट?
मैं चाहता हूँ कि अभी जो मैंने 3-4 एक्शंस किए हैं वो लॉस ना हो आफ्टर रिफ्रेशिंग द पेज, उसके लिए क्या कंसेप्ट होता है?
कस्टम कोड लिखना पड़ता है उसके लिए। लेट से तुम्हारे टेबल के ऊपर 4-5 फील्ड है सर्चिंग की, ओके?
हम्म।
तुमने सर्च किया, ग्रिड में डेटा आया और ग्रिड में ओपन की बटन दबाया, ओपन के बटन पे क्लिक पे दूसरे पेज पे रिडायरेक्ट हुए, ओके?
हम्म।
अगर तुमने फिर से वापस आए तो जो तुमने सर्च किया था वो एज इट इज दिखना चाहिए, राइट? तो
यस।
उसके लिए हमें कस्टम कोड करना पड़ता है। जैसे ही तुम सेव कर रहे हो सेशन स्टोरेज में या फिर रिडक्स में स्टोर करो, नए पेज पे जा रहे हो, जैसे फिर से बैक आते हो तो चेक करो कि सेशन में या फिर रिडक्स में डेटा है क्या, तो वो प्री पॉपुलेट करो और फिर से एपीआई कॉल करो वो जो सर्च फिल्टर के साथ तुमने किया था, ओके?
ओके।
ठीक है, याद दिलाना, मैं एक लूंगा ये सेशन।
आप रिडक्स कवर करने लग करोगे
हाँ,
इसमें रिडक्स?
हाँ,
ओके।
वही, लेकिन बेसिक मेरे भी अब तक इफेक्ट वगैरह करके नहीं देखा है। जितना बेसिक एपीआई कॉल का डेटा स्टोर करने तो आता है, लेकिन वो इफेक्ट लिखते ना कि अगर चेंज हुआ तो क्या, वो अब तक मैंने करके नहीं देखा, तो करके देखेंगे।
नहीं,
बेसिक तो
इसमें
पता है।
तो एनजीआरएक्स ही यूज करेंगे सर हम।
हाँ,
मतलब
एनजीआरएक्स।
हम्म,
रिडक्स मतलब वो रिएक्ट में उसको रिडक्स बोलते हैं, सेम चीज को, ओके?
कई कई कंपनी तो वो कंपोनेंट बेस्ड भी यूजर का डाटा, वो रिक्वेस्ट
हाँ,
पैरामीटर
उसको
जो होते हैं ना
कंपोनेंट
हर
स्टोर
एक
बोलते
सर्च
हैं।
पे,
कंपोनेंट
कंपोनेंट
लेवल
का
पे भी
डाटा स्टोर करते हैं कि कौन से
कंपोनेंट स्टोर बोलते हैं। जैसे
कंपोनेंट
अपना
में,
ये
जैसे
ओवरऑल
अभी।
प्रोजेक्ट स्टोर है, वैसे ही कंपोनेंट स्टोर भी है। रिडक्स
हम्म,
एनजीआरएक्स का छोटा वर्जन है वो।
छोटा
कंपोनेंट
वाला।
लेवल पे अपन डेटा स्टोर कर सकते हैं, ओके? चलो, कल सुबह कनेक्ट करते हैं, रिकॉर्डिंग शेयर करता हूँ थोड़ी देर में।
थैंक
चलो,
यू।
थैंक यू ऑल।